It's Friday. It's Friday. Why do short weeks always seem twice as long? Anyway, hope you're all safe and well. Russ from West Ham Network. If you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a bloody good subscribe. I'll bring to the Hammers headlines, as always, in association with KUMB.com. Check out the forum, particularly when there's not much West Hammy news. It's all about a good opportunity to get your opinions out. And there's some really strong debates in the forum at the moment, so check that out. Can I just turn your attention to some shows we've had and we've got coming up shortly. Last night we had Don Hutchinson for an hour and a half. Basically, I said we was only going to be 45 minutes, but it was absolutely fantastic, as Gary Barlow would say. Although it didn't sound like Gary Barlow. It was brilliant. It was a really honest, funny, nostalgic interview. I was talking to Anton afterwards. I couldn't believe the amount of detail he gave us. He spoke about wages, how much wages he was on, how much wages he was on at Everton, and the options he could have had before coming back to West Ham for the second time. We spoke about a lot of the players. Spoke about his regrets of his time at being a footballer, not just at West Ham, but his football in general. Honestly, it was brilliant. It was really. It flew by. Some good questions from the audience, from the viewers as well. As always, we do. With these live Q&A, it's very much any questions. We try and put them out to the person we're interviewing. He put together a really good 11 as well. I mean, his two spells at West Ham. One was, I'd say, quite a traditional, the British side. It was like it was Alvin Martin and Breaker, and although Ludo was in there, but it's those sort of 93, 94, that type of 95, that sort of seasons. His second spell coming back, it was the Di Canios, it was the likes of Joe Cole, Carrick coming in, Slaven Bilic. Amazing stories how he there's a story about Slav where he basically, when they signed him, he went to get some food with him at the Swallow Hotel, Waltham Abbey, as you know. It's where all new players used to stay. And he did it for 3 months when Dom had signed originally from Liverpool. And basically he just said, look, Slav didn't speak any English. And he just went, pack your bags, you're going to come live with me. And he lived with Don in his house in Emerson Park. Lovely. He loved it so much, he's coming back to do a part 2. So make sure you don't miss the part 2. It's going to be as explosive. He said, I've got loads more stories I'd love to tell the fans. So we're getting him back on in a couple of weeks' time. We've got Don played 110 games last for West Ham over his 2 spells. Next week we should have an ex-player who only played 2. So there we go. And then the following week we've got a really cool celebrity fan coming on as well. And obviously the idea is we do these live so you can ask questions of that person as well. So make sure you check that out. Tonight we have got the Late Late Show with Irish Tommy. He'll be talking about maybe David Moyes, maybe Mark Noble. But the idea is you come on, you can have your say when you come back home from the pub. That's 10 o'clock UK times. Check that out. A few stories doing the rounds, a few rumours. It's like the floodgates are starting to open again. I'm getting slightly worried, but it's a bit easier finding news. Let's start with the first one. Obviously, Scotland, speaking of Don Hutchinson, actually, Anton came and asked him a question about what was it like to be such a patriotic Scot, but live in England, because obviously Anton's exactly the opposite. He supports England, but he's a Scot, and obviously the West Ham connection, very interesting. What was it like to score against England, being a Scotland player and stuff? So very interesting. But anyway, obviously they played Ukraine earlier this week, and West Ham allegedly sent scouts to watch. Whoa, what a name! Mikhailo Mudryk, yeah. That's who, and Don was talking about him yesterday, actually, saying this guy's mustard. I mean, he, as part of his job, he watches football all over the world. But Mudryk was the guy he said he's going to be absolutely shit hot. According to a report from 90 Minutes, who claimed the Hammers face competition with the likes of Newcastle, Everton, Leeds for the 21-year-old Shakhtar Donetsk forward. They claim that the Hammers sent scouts to watch the 21-year-old winger in action for Ukraine at Hampden Park on Tuesday night. Wednesday night. Alongside a handful of other Premier League clubs. Sports Arena claim the Shakhtar attacker could be available for around 20 million quid in January or next summer. Don was raving about him last night. 4 goals and 12 assists in 31 games for the Ukrainian team. He's shone in the Champions League so far with 2 goals and 2 assists in 2 games. He's got pace, technique, a real hunger. He's a great age, and could be a really useful, really interesting, particularly when you're looking at where we're trying to develop competition. He's a winger. He can play either wing. So someone like Jared Bowen, Cornet, bringing him into the mix, very, very, very interesting, very, very exciting player. Another player we were linked with in the summer was David Frattesi. Yes. We'll say that. David. We'll call him David. And apparently we're going to look at him again in January. According to a report from Gazzetta dello Sport, who claim that Tottenham and Brighton have joined West Ham in the race for the 23-year-old midfielder's signature in January. It's basically around €25 million, 22 million quid. And they're both, obviously, us and Brighton, really, to be fair, and Tottenham are looking to bolster that sort of central midfield ranks. We never really did it. We're looking at the likes of, we never obviously, the players like Unana, sort of that's very much sort of CDM role. David could play that role. He can play box to box as well. He's been capped 3 times for Italy. And according to, as I said, Gazzetta dello Sport, we are interested in him. We believe his current club, Sassuolo, who obviously we've worked with before, for the Skamaka deal, which by all accounts went quite well, will be potentially interested in looking to move him on. He's an orthodox central midfielder by trade, can also operate as a 10, but I think we would buy him as an orthodox central midfield player. He averages 34 passes a game, 84% completion rate, good footballer, good technical ability, good engine, and apparently a very good attitude. And maybe if we sign him, we'll get Pedro Obiang back on to talk about him. As I said, with Spurs looking to chase, we're going to face a bit of competition, and we'll see what happens in January. Being Italian, Antonio Conte, we may be on a loser here, in all honesty, but a great player. And a good age as well, 23. And finalement, let's talk about Betway. So obviously they were fined £400,000 by the Gambling Commission for basically advertising to children. And apparently West Ham will reportedly not be asked by the sponsor Betway to pay a penny of that penalty. Apparently, they were fined for placing marketing material in children's sections of the club website, with the story breaking about 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago, that the Gambling Commission fined them £400,000. It was about colouring in the mascots. Betway accepted the fine and not looking to recoup it from the Hammers. Gambling companies themselves are likely to be outlawed by the government in terms of appearing on the front of players' shirts. That's something which has been debated quite a lot. So it may mean that Betway continue their ties with West Ham, but maybe another part of the jersey to reduce sort of the visibility. I don't know how it all works, but rather than waiting for the government ban, the club might be proactive and start looking at steps in order to cut ties with them potentially. You don't know. They've been. This was not a good sign, was it really? And so we'll see what happens with that bit. But obviously, with the sort of proximity of the actual what's the word of the branding of the sponsorship on the shirts, that's definitely something which the government are looking to reduce for gambling companies. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future. This hasn't probably helped the relationship, in all honesty. Let's be honest. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, please check out the network this week. We'll have Irish Tommy. We're going to have a little show on probably tomorrow. Don Hutchinson was what I call a boomerang player. Goes around, comes back, And it got me thinking about whether, the other players that are boomerang players who've played for West Ham. Basically, I put an 11 together. And, done a bit of a trawl and put a few people in. And obviously, managers are quite interesting. A lot of players have played and come back as managers. All the likes from John Lyle to Slaven Bilic, to Stuart Pearce, to Kevin Nolan on the coaching staff. It's there's a lot of those guys who retire and end up coming back in some guys. Mark Noble, our new sporting director. Well, as of January. So make sure you check that out. But anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the England game tonight. There could be 4 West Ham players in the teams, if Declan Rice, if Bowen, if Skamaka, and if Emerson all play. And there we go. So take care and stay safe. Stay warm. Stay dry. It's a bit grey and drizzly in Hornchurch today. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Ta-ta, my friends. See you Monday. Bye-bye.